The thing about small towns is, secrets leak faster than oil on a gravel driveway. And yet, my wife, Megan, thought she could rewrite the laws of physics and pull off a secret affair without anyone noticing. Bless her ambitious heart. She worked at one of those fast-growing tech firms just outside of Springfield. You know the type. Ping-pong tables in the break room, 10 different Slack channels for team bonding, and a C-suite that pretended HR was just a suggestion. Me? I run a family hardware store. Nothing fancy. Tools, lumber, bulk nails, and big plastic bins. The same kind of place you can smell from a block away. Cedar, grease, and old coffee. People come in because they need something real. They leave with it. And that's the key difference between my world and hers. In my world, what you see is what you get. In hers, it's all branding. Even the lies come with logos. Megan started changing around the end of October. I remember because Halloween was the last night we felt normal. She wore a flannel dress to the chili cook-off, laughed at my dumb ghost jokes, held my hand like we were still in our 20s. Then, 2 days later, she said she needed to stay late for quarterly report crunch. I asked if she wanted me to drop dinner off. She said no, they were ordering sushi. That was lie number one. The sushi place she mentioned? Closed on Mondays. Always had been. I know because the guy who owns it buys his tile grout from me. But I let it go. One lie doesn't make a trend. Just a mistake. Then came the flowers. First it was one bouquet. No note. Just for Megan on the front desk. She brushed it off. Said marketing sent them as a thank you for helping with the Q4 pitch. I believed her. Mostly because I wanted to. Then it happened again. And again. Different flowers each time. Always anonymous. Always when I wasn't around. And then, the jokes. Little comments she'd make after work, laughing to herself. Oh, you had to be there, she'd say, sipping wine she never liked before. Always you had to be there. Never, let me tell you. I started writing it all down. Not to confront her, not yet, but to keep my head straight. November 6th, white tulips. November 13th, calla lilies. November 19th, she says she's tired of family dinners. Wants more me time. November 22nd, she wears perfume to the grocery store. And then, the neighbor. She's not the gossiping type. One of those mind your fence, mind your business women. But one night, as I was hauling in groceries, she calls across the yard. Did you get a new car? I blinked. Nope. Still driving the same Ford. Huh, she said. We saw Megan getting out of a convertible on Friday. Just figured it was yours. Friday. The same day Megan said she worked through lunch and had to Uber home because it rained too hard to drive. It hadn't rained. Not even a drizzle. That was the moment I knew. The math didn't add up, and neither did her alibis. But instead of exploding or accusing her, I played dumb. Because sometimes the best revenge starts with pretending you're still asleep. That Friday, I left my car at the shop. Real issue, busted radiator fan. Perfect timing. Called Megan and asked for a ride to work. Said I didn't want to bug anyone else. She hesitated, just for a second, then agreed. When she pulled up, I smiled like nothing was wrong. Then I opened the back door of her SUV and paused. Glitter. Not the kids' party kind. The expensive kind. Specks of it all over the back seat floor mats. Faint but unmistakable. She never wears glitter. I slid into the passenger seat and buckled up slowly. You have a party in here? I asked, casual as dirt. She gave a weird half-laugh. What? No. Must be from work decorations. Didn't realize quarterly reports came with confetti. She didn't respond. Her knuckles were white on the wheel. The car smelled like cologne. Not mine. Not hers. I watched her face from the corner of my eye. It twisted, then tightened. Like a balloon with a slow leak. She turned the radio up too loud. Asked if I wanted to grab coffee. Overcompensating. Rambling. That was when I knew. I didn't need a confession. I had evidence. And more importantly, I had a plan. Because the company Christmas party was in 2 weeks. And I'd just been asked to give a spouse appreciation speech. Funny how that worked out. I'll admit, I've always been more quiet calculations than public scenes. I've never been the guy who flips tables or screams in parking lots. That kind of rage burns hot, but fizzles fast. I'm more of a simmerer. And for this, I let it stew. The Christmas party was the perfect setup. It was a local tradition. One of those too fancy for the town events where the company rented out the top floor of the only hotel with a rooftop bar. It had everything. Tinsel, champagne, awkward coworkers pretending they liked each other, And most importantly, spouses. I'd been invited every year. Sometimes I went. Sometimes I let Megan fly solo. This year, though, I RSVP'd immediately. Because this year, I had a performance to prepare. The invitation arrived in my inbox like an omen. Spouse appreciation segment. Short personal stories welcome. Short stories. That's rich. I spent the next few days putting it together. Not a speech. A roadmap. I went through every flower delivery, every inside joke she dropped like crumbs, every lie she told when she thought I wasn't listening. Each moment was a data point. I organized it like a product pitch. Hell, I even used bullet points. Meanwhile, Megan was busy pretending everything was normal. Or trying to. She'd hum around the kitchen again. Touch my arm when she wanted something. Offer to make dinner even when I hadn't asked. Guilt turned her into a domestic goddess. But it wasn't real. Guilt is a performance. And she was giving the final act of a long, dishonest play. I noticed the little tells, the way her voice cracked when she asked what I'd wear to the party. How she double-checked if I was definitely going. Her eyes darted every time I picked up my phone. She was worried. Not because she thought I knew, but because I wasn't reacting. And that's how you get inside someone's head. The night of the party, I shaved twice, wore the good watch, and ironed my shirt with military precision. Megan came downstairs in a red dress I hadn't seen before. She looked nervous. "You clean up nice," she said, adjusting my collar. I smiled. "It's a special night." She bit her lip. "You're not mad I've been working so much lately?" "No," I said, straightening my tie. "I think tonight's going to be clarifying for both of us." She blinked. "What do you mean?" But I was already walking out the door. The hotel lobby smelled like peppermint and ambition. The whole town's professional crowd was packed into that rooftop like a LinkedIn profile exploded. I shook hands, made small talk, and watched Megan disappear into the inner circle of her department. She laughed a little too loudly, touched shoulders that weren't mine, flashed that practiced smile like she still had something to prove. Then I saw him. The department head. Tom. Tall, fake tan, teeth too white for a guy living on a small-town salary. He wore confidence like cologne, strong enough to make your eyes water. He leaned in close when Megan talked, brushed her lower back when she laughed. And when he thought no one was looking, he slipped something into her coat pocket and grinned. Subtle, but not subtle enough. I made a note. The MC tapped a glass. The music faded. Time for our annual toast to the spouses, the ones who put up with our hours, our slack pings, and our stress. Applause. Laughter. Megan looked smug. And this year, we're proud to have one of our most supportive partners say a few words. Please welcome Daniel Fletcher. I stood, buttoned my jacket, walked up slow. The room quieted. I stepped up to the mic and smiled like a preacher at a funeral. "Good evening," I said. I was asked to speak tonight about appreciation, about what it means to support someone who works as hard as my wife. Some people smiled. Megan looked curious. A little too curious. I continued. Now, I could stand here and say the usual things. About long hours. Cold dinners. How proud I am of her. A pause. But instead, I thought I'd talk about patterns. The room shifted. See, it started with the flowers. Anonymous. Regular. No note. But always after a late meeting. A few heads turned. I kept going. Then the jokes. The ones I wasn't allowed to hear. The nights she laughed alone in the kitchen after boring work dinners. The perfume she never wore for me. Megan stiffened. Someone near her muttered something. And then, I said, pacing slightly, the rainstorm that never happened. The convertible she said she didn't know. The glitter in the back seat. Dead silence. Tom looked pale. I stopped, faced the crowd. And that, I said, letting the weight settle, is how I found out my wife has been sleeping with her boss. Gasps. A choked laugh from someone near the bar. Megan looked like a wax statue melting under the heat lamps. I raised my glass. To transparency, I said. Then I stepped away from the mic. Walked past Megan without looking. Walked out. Let the elevator doors close. The walk from the rooftop ballroom to the hotel parking lot felt like crossing a finish line. Not a sprint. More like the end of a marathon you trained months for. Knowing the moment you broke the tape would mean you'd never run beside that person again. The cold slapped me as I stepped into the night air. Snow was falling in that lazy, sideways way it always does right before a storm hits. I stood there for a second, just watching it drift. Behind me, the doors hadn't opened yet. She wasn't chasing. Not that I expected her to. Inside that ballroom, her world was shrinking. I got in my car, let it idle, turned the heater on low. I wasn't in a rush. Sometimes the real reward is letting the silence do the work. 15 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Megan, 12 missed calls. Megan, what the hell was that? Megan, please come back inside. Megan, Dan, you don't understand. Megan, HR is here. They're saying there's going to be an investigation. That one made me laugh. Megan, please talk to me. I turned the phone off, drove home. The next morning, I woke up to a living room full of boxed-up holiday decorations she'd never unpacked. Half the tree still leaned in the corner, lights wrapped around it like regret. There was no sign of Megan, but I didn't expect one. By 10 a.m., the town had already turned into a live feed. My store guy, Jordan, walked in with his phone buzzing like it owed him money. Dude, he said, you went viral. Viral? I raised an eyebrow. Someone recorded your speech. It's on the company's Slack. People are sharing it like wildfire. I nodded once. Huh. You want me to start a hashtag or something? No thanks. I didn't need fame. Just consequences. And they came quick. That afternoon, I got a text from a mutual friend who worked in HR at the firm. Off the record, of course, but reliable. The department head, Tom, had been called in first. Denied everything. Claimed it was a misunderstanding. Suggested I had jealous husband syndrome. Poor Tom. He didn't realize I wasn't the only one taking notes. Apparently, an anonymous tip had come in with screenshots, calendars, access logs. Someone, not me, had forwarded security footage of Tom and Megan arriving at the building at odd hours. HR had already started their own paper trail weeks earlier. I just lit the match. By Monday, Tom had been placed on leave pending investigation. By Tuesday, Megan was walked out by security. Fired. For cause. Violation of ethics. Undisclosed relationship with a direct superior. Breach of company policy. No severance. No references. Just a cardboard box and an Uber ride. I didn't find out from her. I found out from half the town before lunch. One of the perks of living somewhere where everyone knows your business is that it moves fast when there's blood in the water. 3 days later, she showed up at the house. Same red dress from the party. Like it could undo what it had seen. Her makeup was gone. Her hair looked slept on. Her eyes were puffy, but dry, like someone who ran out of crying 3 hours ago. I opened the door, but didn't move aside. Dan, she said. Hi. She stared at me for a beat. Then, you humiliated me. I tilted my head. I thought I told the truth. You could have told me in private. You didn't do it in private. She flinched. I lost my job, she said. You gave it away. I didn't. I didn't think it would go this far. That's funny, I said. I always thought you were the planner. Silence. I was lonely, she said, voice breaking. You were always working. Always distracted. I was building our life, I said. You just didn't want to live in it. She stepped forward. Can we talk? Really talk? I nodded. Then closed the door. From the other side, I heard her breath catch. Then retreat. The divorce wasn't messy. She didn't have much left to fight for. No job. No reputation. No support system. Most of our mutual friends had either gone silent or picked sides. And let's just say the cookout invites leaned heavily in my favor. We split everything cleanly. No alimony. No legal drama. She took her stuff. I kept the house. The car. The dog. The holiday decorations she never bothered to hang. For a while, I thought I might feel guilt. But guilt only sticks when you think you overplayed your hand. And all I'd done was show the cards she'd already laid on the table. The thing about aftermaths is they're quiet. Not in a peaceful way. More like the eerie calm after a barn fire, when the embers still smoke and the air smells like everything that used to matter. 3 weeks after the party, I went back to my routine. Coffee by 6. Shop opened at 8. Lunch was a ham sandwich and half a bag of chips. Normal by all accounts. Except now, when I walked into town, I didn't just get waves. I got looks. Long ones. Some sympathetic. Some impressed. Some confused. Small towns don't forget fast, but they sure do revise stories quickly. Depending on who you asked, I was either the poor husband or the cold genius. One guy even called me Shakespeare with a sledgehammer. Not sure what he meant by that, but I'll take it. Megan, meanwhile, vanished from our little orbit. She moved in with her sister across town. No job. No car. The convertible belonged to Tom. And Tom, of course, was long gone, out of state by New Year's. HR couldn't comment, but his department got merged into another by February. Poetic. I didn't reach out. Didn't block her either. Just let her disappear into the margins. I did, however, keep one eye open. Because karma, like audits, tends to come in waves. It was around mid-March when the real twist hit. I'd applied for a supply contract with a new distribution hub opening just off the interstate. Big job. Enough to double the store's intake for the year. I got a call back. Interview set. Friday, 9 a.m. I wore my best denim button-up. The one that said, "Yes, I own a hardware store, and yes, I can do math." The building was brand new. Bright. Chrome. Probably built by people who never touched a 2x4 themselves, but whatever. I walked in. Told the front desk I had a 9 a.m. appointment. The receptionist looked up, and my stomach didn't drop. It curdled. There she was. Megan. Hair longer. Face thinner. Eyes smaller. But it was her. "Daniel," she said, voice barely above a whisper. I stood there. Let it sink in. She swallowed. "You're here for the vendor interview?" I nodded. Then looked down at her badge. Temporary staff. Reception support. Temporary. Reception. The same woman who once scoffed at my small-town ambitions was now buzzering in old suppliers like me for jobs she used to be too good to take. We stood there for a beat. Then I smiled. "Thanks for checking me in." She blinked. You're not mad?" I leaned in slightly, lowered my voice. "You remember when you said I was too comfortable with mediocrity?" She flinched. "Well," I said, gesturing to the pristine walls and fake plants, "I guess I got comfortable enough to survive." The hiring manager came out, hand extended. "Daniel? Right this way." I didn't look back. Didn't have to. I got the contract. Biggest one we'd landed in 6 years. Expanded the back room. Hired another driver. Gave Jordan a raise and a bonus for staying out of my personal life. Business boomed. Spring turned into summer, and with it, the last frost of Megan's ghost melted off my porch. I started taking care of myself again. Lifted more. Ate better. Switched out the single malt for iced tea once in a while. The shop looked cleaner. I laughed more. Didn't trust quicker, but I did sleep sounder. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't just rip through trust. It shreds the version of yourself that let it happen. But if you're smart, you don't rebuild that old version. You start from scratch. You build sharper, colder, but not cruel, just awake. It's strange what the body remembers. A year after the Christmas party, almost to the day, I woke up before my alarm and knew something was coming. Not a panic, not dread, just that internal hum, like an engine idling under your ribcage. Like your gut's already reading tomorrow's headline while your brain's still brushing its teeth. It was a Thursday. Nothing remarkable about it. Snow was light. Calendar was clean. We had a shipment coming in, but it wasn't big. Jordan was opening the shop, so I took my time with breakfast. Black coffee, scrambled eggs, 2 slices of burnt toast because I was reading something and forgot the second pop. Halfway through the eggs, the doorbell rang. Not many people come by unannounced. Even fewer knock like they're unsure if they should be knocking at all. I opened it slow. There she was. Not Megan. Someone else. A woman about my age. Long dark hair. Expensive jacket. No makeup, but the kind of confidence that didn't need any. She looked at me like she wasn't sure what version of me to expect. "You Daniel?" "I am." She offered a business card. Caitlin R. Westfield. Corporate Compliance Officer. HR Investigations. My heart didn't drop. It just narrowed. She smiled, professionally, not kindly. "Mind if I ask a few questions?" "Off the record." I gestured her inside. We sat at the kitchen table. The same one Megan used to pretend she liked crossword puzzles at. Caitlin opened a manila folder. "Megan Fletcher." I nodded. She listed this as her former address. She did. "You're her ex-husband, right?" she said, scribbling something. "She was employed by Neuronet Systems, correct?" "For a while." "Do you know a man named Thomas Grover?" That name hadn't passed my lips in over a year. I nodded. He was her department head. Caitlin didn't react, just kept writing. "She filed a harassment claim," she said finally, "against him. Said he misled her, exploited her position, promised advancement in exchange for personal involvement." I said nothing. She watched me. "You're quiet." "I'm processing." "She listed you as someone who may have witnessed inappropriate conduct." I leaned back. "She's trying to rewrite the ending." Caitlin blinked. I shrugged. Tom's not a saint. But Megan knew exactly what she was doing. "You think she's lying?" I think she's adjusting. To what? I smiled coldly. Reality. The conversation stretched another hour. I didn't trash Megan. I didn't defend Tom. I just told the truth, in bullet points. When it was over, Caitlin closed her folder. Appreciate your honesty, she said, standing. Appreciate someone finally asking. As I walked her out, she paused on the porch. One last question, she said. If you could do it again, the speech, the party, all of it, would you change anything? I looked out across the yard. The fence I built myself. The dog sleeping in the sun. The silence no longer heavy with suspicion. No, I said, but I'd buy a better mic. That hotel, one barely picked up the back row. She smirked, then walked off into the snow. That night, I made dinner. Not out of spite, not out of celebration, just because it was quiet again. I opened a bottle of red, not to toast, but to remember. To remember that closure isn't always a door slamming shut. Sometimes it's just the slow, quiet realization that nothing else needs to be said. I poured one glass, left the second empty. Not for her, just for symmetry. And because sometimes the best revenge is simply surviving better. The snow stuck around longer than usual that year. By January, everything looked like a paused frame. One of those old-time Christmas postcards, only less cheerful. Just whites and grays, the occasional black tree limb scratching at the sky. But inside, things were moving. The store was thriving. Jordan was practically running it himself. I'd finally fixed the truck's left signal. Started sleeping through the night without waking up wondering where she was. Or worse, who she was texting. I hadn't heard from Megan in 3 months. Not a message. Not a sighting. Not a whisper from anyone mutual. I figured she either skipped town or shrunk into whatever was left of her life. The part no one reposted, no one pitted. The part after the headlines fade. I was fine with that. Until I opened the mailbox that morning. It was a manila envelope. Handwritten. No return address. I should have tossed it. But I didn't. Inside was a letter. Neatly typed. No greeting. No sign-off. Just this. I know what I did. And I know how you made it look like my idea to burn it all down. But it wasn't just revenge, was it? You needed everyone to see. You needed me small. You needed me fired. You needed me to pay. You got it. I lost the job. The reference. The friends. I even lost the apartment. But not the mirror. That still shows me the same person every morning, and I hate her. Congratulations. You were right. About everything. So I hope you're happy in your clean little house, with your silent phone, and your perfect moral clarity. I hope it was worth it. No signature. No return address. Just the cold, calculated tap of a guilt-sharpened pen. I folded it twice. Tossed it in the trash. Then pulled it out again, not because I wanted to keep it, but because something was written on the back. Just 2 words. You won. Winning isn't what people think it is. It's not a parade. It's not confetti. It's not even satisfaction. It's silence. It's standing in your kitchen, reading the last breath of a woman who tried to bury you in your own kindness, and realizing you no longer need her to be wrong in order for you to feel right. I didn't write her back. I didn't tell anyone about the letter. Didn't need to. Because the truth is, revenge is a chapter. But peace? That's the epilogue. By spring, I'd signed the contract to open a second location. Hired a new assistant manager. Took a weekend trip to the lake with some old friends who still saw me as the guy I was before all of it went sideways. I even started dating again. Carefully. Slowly. No fireworks. No vows. Just real talk, strong coffee, and long walks. The kind that don't require apologies the next day. Every once in a while, I still think about the party. The silence after my speech. The way the room cracked in half without me raising my voice. Not out of pride, but as a reminder that sometimes the cleanest cut doesn't come from rage. It comes from facts, presented publicly, with a smile. The end. Subscribe to the channel